Welcome to the Matt Bernier Show.
What's happening? It's the Matt Bernier Show here on DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter and Facebook. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Today is Friday, March the 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy day 2 of the NCAA tournament. And happy 60th birthday to my old man, Tommy B. Back up in Massachusetts. I'm heading home after this to see how everything's going up there. So happy birthday to him, and good on everyone. Thanks for watching. If you check this thing out, podcast version, we've got YouTube, SoundCloud, video.drf.com, as well as iTunes. Again, if you check this thing out live, you can always go back if you want to listen to something again, or on a day like today where the tournament's going to kick off day 2 anyway in about, 20 minutes, I think the first games start. If you end up checking out after 20 minutes, I understand completely. I'm not going to hold that against you. You can always go back, listen to it in the podcast version. Normally, what we do here for this opening segment this time of year has to do with the 3-year-olds. We're going to wait and do that in the second segment, though, simply because I feel like there's an interesting sort of thing that I thought of and I have been thinking of over the past handful of weeks leading up to the Santa Anita Handicap, which was one of the races we went over here on this show last weekend. And the Santa Anita Handicap was run last Saturday, obviously, at Santa Anita. 1.25 miles. It's one of the most prestigious races we have in North America. And I've seen a lot of people recently, I think DRF National Handicapper Mike Watchmaker even wrote about it a little bit in his Sunday morning column, that, maybe there's some concern about where the big cap lands in the international calendar, because right now you're kind of sandwiched between the Pegasus World Cup for $12 million and the Dubai World Cup for $10 million. And just strictly from a purse standpoint, the big cap can't compete with that. This year it was run at $750,000. In the past it's been run at $1 million. But the bigger thing for me, it got me thinking anyway, well, how do we prevent horses from going to those two events, or at least enticing horses from either one of those events to also run in the big cap? First things first, I thought the most likely winner of the race was Midnight Storm. I thought a live long shot was High Happy. Guess what? Shaman Ghost gets it done. Michael Rowan from the top of the lane.
Crev picking up ground near the inside, 5th, 5 lengths out of it. Midnight Storm leading halfway down the stretch, and the big cap, the whip is produced. Shaman Ghost is drifting out a little bit while giving chase. It's Midnight Storm, Shaman Ghost out towards the middle of the track. It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile. Shaman Ghost has beaten Midnight Storm. Follow me, Crev, 5 lengths off third. High Happy.
I think that ultimately came down to a matter of stamina. I don't think Midnight Storm wants any part of the 10 furlongs, truly. But Bejarano did what he could do to get him to see out the 10 furlongs. But Shaman Ghost, he wants every bit of the distance. The bigger thing for me, though, is now, well, okay, you've got Arrogate going in the Dubai World Cup next weekend. You've got Opportunity. You've got Gun Runner. You have Keen Ice. You have Neolithic. You have a lot of our big North American contingent going over to Dubai and running over there for $10 million. The existing schedule, as far as the Stronach group is concerned, as well as the Dubai World Cup, we're going to take a look at that right now. There's a graphic on the screen, and you see this is their schedule from January the 1st all the way through the end of May. And this year, it's only on this year's dates. In the past, they've been changed a little bit, but you see the progression: the San Pasquale into the Pegasus World Cup at the end of January, the San Antonio, the Big Cap, the Dubai World Cup, the Californian, the Pimlico Special, and the Gold Cup. It got me thinking. You start to look at the overall landscape of things, and look, the Pimlico Special has lost some of the cachet that it once had. I don't think it's really a race that connections point toward. The purse is down. It's down to $300,000. It's running 1 mile and 3/16. I suppose it fits as far as timing is concerned, and it gives the older horses a race on Preakness weekend. But what if you really change things up a little bit to try to draw the horses from the Pegasus World Cup, from the Dubai World Cup to the Santa Anita Handicap, while also giving some of the other Stronach group racing surfaces and tracks some new events? And let's take a look. This is just a schedule. I tweeted this earlier in the week. If you follow me on Twitter, you've seen this. If you don't follow me on Twitter and you're just friends on Facebook or you just watch the show, this is an idea I cooked up. Run the San Pasquale as is, January the 1st. Run the Pegasus World Cup, whether it's at Gulfstream or Santa Anita, as is. Normally when the big cap would be run the San Antonio. Basically the horses that run in that race, they weren't going to go to Dubai anyway. That was nothing more than a prep for a race like the big cap. Now you've got it situated where for $250,000, the horses aren't good enough to run in the Dubai World Cup. They still have an opportunity to run for a nice purse at 9 furlongs. The horses that want to go to Dubai, they have every opportunity. They're going to go over there. It's obviously spaced well from the Pegasus. The Californian allows another sort of stopgap between the San Antonio. It's a little quick for the World Cup horses to come back. either one of them. I suppose the Pegasus World Cup horses, if you don't go to Dubai, the Californian fits in beautifully. But the big point of sort of this entire thing is you have 2 months between the Dubai World Cup and the Santa Anita Handicap. You have essentially 4 months between the Pegasus World Cup and the Santa Anita Handicap. It would allow everyone sort of time to get back, whether you were overseas or not, get their bearings, be pointed toward another race, change the purse structure. As you can see, the Pimlico Special was eliminated, and I'll get to the final race that I added on there in a minute. But make the big cap $1 million purse. Move it to Preakness weekend. You don't have to have, and I think some people immediately thought when I tweeted that out that I meant actually move the event to Pimlico. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying since they're both in concert with one another, Santa Anita and Pimlico, they're both run by Stronach Group, why not have sort of, you know, on the Triple Crown days, you have those big extended gaps between races, 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Well, how awesome would that be if at the same time on Preakness weekend, on Preakness Day, let's say, you have all the people at Pimlico, 140,000 people packed in there. You run your event, you run your race, whether it's the Dixie or whatever stakes race it is, and then on the big screen in the infield and all the other sort of simulcast areas, you show the live feed from Santa Anita and you get ready and you do the same thing at Santa Anita. So if you don't want to go cross country to watch the Preakness live in person, you go to Santa Anita Park. You're there not only for the Preakness, but then you've got a big event right there in and of itself, the Santa Anita Handicap. You're going to have the best horses running. You're going to have the top 3-year-olds. You're going to have the Derby winner running. And if you just time it right, where you go back and forth and every 15 minutes instead of every 30 minutes, you have a major event going on. I don't think you would cannibalize handle. I think if anything, it would just stimulate it and make people want to wager more. I think there's a lot of things to like about that. Now, maybe I'm just like my own idea, which is entirely possible. And maybe some people think it doesn't make any sense or logistically it just wouldn't work. The big thing, too, about that schedule that we showed, and if we could show it one more time, guys, it'd be great. The last race, the new edition, the elimination of the Pimlico Special, I like the idea of a Laurel Gold Cup. Now, the Pimlico Special run at 9.5 furlongs because of the configuration at Pimlico. I have it listed as 9.5 furlongs at Laurel simply because I don't believe they have a shoot for a 1.25 mile race. So for now, 9.5 works. You change some of the purse structures where you take one of the earlier races at Santa Anita, and I get that this turns into the real logistical part where you're going to take purses from one jurisdiction to another. That's not kosher. It's not going to work. I get it. You're going to have to work through some of that. But if you take the 300,000 from a race like the Pimlico Special, you put that toward a race at Laurel Park. Laurel, they've been talking about wanting to attract the Breeders' Cup for some time now. Laurel doesn't have a sort of signature event for older horses. I have it listed as June the 17th. Some people pointed out that conflicts with Stephen Foster Day or weekend at Churchill Downs for the older horses. It doesn't have to be the 17th of June. I was just looking at it saying, what's a logical sort of next step a month after? You could make it on sort of 4th of July weekend if you wanted down at Laurel Park. But as I pointed out to the people that pointed out the conflict with the Stephen Foster, you're always going to have issues because the Belmont sort of meeting is going on and you have the Stars and Stripes Festival, and the Suburban has now been boosted to $750,000 at 1.25 miles. So you're always going to be competing with other places. But okay, let's say you bump it back 1 week and it's the final week in June. All of a sudden, you've got an attractive area on the East Coast, 9.5 furlongs. Let's say connections don't want to go to Belmont where it's essentially a 1.5 turn 1.25 miles. You can run at 9.5 furlongs. It spaces you very well if you think you got a horse good enough to go to the Whitney. Maybe it gives some of the local hopes another shot. You can take a chance. I just think there's some things to think about. And I guess the other part too, for me anyway, aren't we past the point of just holding things so sacred? Oh, we can't move things. We can't change schedules. Can't change the calendar. We saw that happen a few years ago now with the Met Mile. I loved it on Memorial Day for NYRA, but moving it to Belmont Stakes Day as well as all those other stakes, guess what? That is one of the 3 or 4 days on the entire racing calendar that I'm most excited about. So I say overall it's worked. I just think it would do a lot of good for a track like Laurel. It would help the overall sort of shape of the big cap. I think it would help maintain its importance, and I think it would add to a very exciting day as is at Pimlico on Preakness Day if you kind of had a co-headliner with a race like the Santa Anita Handicap out in Santa Anita, and it would be interesting going back and forth, and then you'd have all sorts of TV deals that would go on with NBC, I'm sure, anybody else that wanted to get involved. Just something to think about. I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I don't know if it would even be considered, but just one of those things that got me thinking, how can we maintain sort of the prestige of a big event without it losing out to the events that it just simply can't run with from a calendar standpoint as well as a purse standpoint. Now that we got that out of the way, we're going to take a break here on the Matt Bernier Show. When we come back, we'll dive into the 3-year-olds. We'll do a little bit of the handicapping review in there simply because 2 of the big 3-year-old preps last week, and I had them as previews. We'll see how we fared here on the Matt Bernier Show. Stay with us.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome.
California
To
Chrome.
California Chrome. Away to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away, of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a Grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front. To win the winner of the Gun Handicap.
This horse is the complete package. He's won from 7 furlongs to 1.1 miles. He's won on dual surfaces. He's won with and without Lasix, and he's traveled around the world and brought his A game with him.
He showed that he was a very top-class dirt horse.
Balance is key, and he was just perfectly proportioned. I think that's what made him so athletic and so efficient on the track.
12-12 on the East, 9-12 on the West, the Matt Bernier Show on DRFTV. Let's dive into handicapping review and 3-year-olds kind of at the same time because it just started to feel like things had started to clear up a little bit, and that's been sort of the overriding topic that I've had over the past handful of weeks here, that the 3-year-olds, I think they're talented, but they kind of keep going by the wayside, whether one throws in a clunker, one gets hurt, X, Y, and Z, whatever the case may be. For some reason, there's just no stability, and they keep going up and down. It looked like we finally got the clarity. Going into the San Felipe, I thought the most likely winner, as well as the vulnerable favorite, was Mastery. I say vulnerable, knowing that Baffert did just phenomenal work off the bench with these types. But at the end of the day, he was facing a legitimate Grade 1 winner, and it was his first start off the bench. Gormley had a race already under his belt. Iliad looked like he could be anything. It ended up being for naught because he was far and away the best horse, Michael Rona, from the top of the lane.
The winner is trying hard to get on terms. Gormley has given way. Termavada distant fourth. Mastery has moved clear with an 8th left to go. Iliad is floundering in the final furlong of this 1 16th test. And Mastery is strolling away with the San Felipe. Mastery, Baffert winning the race for the 6th time. And Smith just sat there in the final stages of the race. Iliad second.
Just when it looked like we had the horse that we were expecting, we were waiting for to come and just blow the doors down and got a 105 buyer in that effort, Mastery did, he gets hurt. You saw right after the race, there was no gallop out. Mike Smith got off, dismounted. Unfortunately, he has a left front condylar fracture. Don't know if he's done career-wise, but he's certainly going to miss the Triple Crown campaign. So just as things got clearer, they got more murky. Now, just shortly thereafter, we had the Tampa Bay Derby down at Tampa Bay Downs. Thank you again to our sponsor from last week, Tampa Bay. Tapwrit went into it as the favorite kind of by default because McCracken got hurt. He missed the race. If McCracken goes in there, he's odds on. But instead, Tapwrit inherits favoritism, and he gets the job done. Richard Grunder from the top.
On the outside, swings to the center of the racetrack, but it's Tapwrit. He's in the clear and strictly the one to catch. State of Honor is digging in gamely, trying to hang on for second. Up on the outside is Wild Shot, but down to the wire, it's Tapwrit. He makes another step forward on his way to Churchill. Well done, young man. We'll report home 4 lengths to the good. State of Honor is second. Close for third.
He was good. I have no knock against him other than at the current sort of time for me. He doesn't blow me away. I think he's good. He continues to take steps forward. Clearly the connections thought highly of him when they paid all that money for him. But I'm not entirely convinced that he's some superstar at this stage in the game. Doesn't mean he can't continue to progress. The interesting thing now is going to be to see what Pletcher decides to do with him. We know Todd usually likes to go into these races, sort of the Derby, if you will, with 2 preps and then the Derby. Well, he's already got his 2 preps, and this is already following sort of the destined path from last year. He wins the Sam F. Davis, he wins the Tampa Bay Derby, they wait 8 weeks, and then they run the Kentucky Derby. It sounds like Pletcher is a little bit more open to running him one more time. Where that is, that remains to be seen. You have options, though. You have Bluegrass, you have the Wood Memorial. I can't imagine he'd run on 2 weeks, or 3 weeks coming back in the Florida Derby on April the 1st. So I would think that probably that second weekend, that leaves you the Bluegrass or the Wood if they do run him back. You always have the Arkansas Derby, but I'm sure that's going to be too quick for Todd, turning back into the Kentucky Derby, being as that's only 3 weeks out. So I thought he was the most likely winner. I thought a live long shot was Tale of Silence. He was god-awful. That was a complete swing and a miss. But those 2, those worked out. The Florida Oaks, no video to show you, no audio here. But 3-year-old fillies, we thought coming into it, La Coronel would be a handful for Mark Casse. She ran a very good race off the bench. She made a very sort of, I don't know if it was her. I don't think Florent Giroux told her to go at the time. It was a premature move. And then she flattened out understandably a little bit. There was a big pace signed on. You had a runoff that went out there and set legitimate fractions. And it helped set up for the horse that I liked, my pick, and what I called her a live long shot, even though I knew she wasn't going to be a giant price. 55 for Tom Bush. I think she has a lot of ability. She's got a big late kick. She's always going to be at the mercy of pace and trip. Well, guess what? Jose Ortiz gave her a beautiful ride. She got the pace that she needed. She kicked down the lane. She just holds off La Coronel. Talent-wise, I still think La Coronel might be better than 55, but I had circled. She had one of those races in her 55. Maybe she got it earlier than down the road, and once the waters get a little bit deeper, maybe it'll hurt her. But anytime you have that big late kick on turf, I think you're always going to be a dangerous one to worry about. I think La Coronel takes a step forward out of this race. I thought it was a good effort. I think she moves forward second off the bench, also with a little bit of a better timed move, whether that was her or whether it was Giroux. A good effort, all things considered, off the bench for La Coronel. So that race for us was a stone-cold lockup. That was a nice exacta in the Florida Oaks. We're going to take a break here, 12:17 on the Matt Bernier Show. When we come back, handicapping preview 2 races. One of them, the big 3-year-old prep down at Laurel Park, the $900,000 Rebel Stakes. And then we'll talk a little bit about the March Madness, as the first game has already tipped off here on opening Friday of the tournament. Stay with us.
California Chrome, straight and strong. Absolutely sensational. California Chrome.
California Chrome.
California Chrome. Away to the Kentucky Derby. California Chrome wins impressively.
He's gone into overdrive. California Chrome wins the Dubai World Cup.
One of the greatest performances you'll ever see.
Chrome turns to gold.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away, of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a Grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front.
Win the winner of the Gun Handicap.
This horse is the complete package. He's won from 7 furlongs to 1.1 miles. He's won on dual surfaces. He's won with and without Lasix, and he's traveled around the world and brought his A game with him.
He showed that he was a very top-class dirt horse.
Balance is key, and he was just perfectly proportioned. I think that's what made him so athletic and so efficient on the track.
12:19 on the East, 9:19 the West. The Matt Bernier Show, DRFTV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter and Facebook. If you're watching, following along live, you've also got the podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. We're only going to go over 2 races this weekend. One of them's a Grade 2, one of them's a Grade 1. The purses are basically reversed, though. The Grade 2 is worth $900,000. Let's take a look at that. It's the Grade 2 Rebel down at Laurel Park. 50 Kentucky Derby points are awarded to the winner. On the far side, if you are watching visually, you can see the entry card with my odds. If you're listening, I'll run them down for you really quickly. You got a nice big full field in here. The 1 Silver Bullion 99-1, Uncontested 16-1, Sonneteer 99-1, Petrov 5-1, Untrapped 9-1, Malegacy 6-1, American Anthem 7-2, Silver Dust 10-1 as we turn the page. The number 9 is Appalachian Gem 99-1, Royal Mo 10-1. Looking at Lee breaking from the far outside 9-1. This is an interesting race for a number of reasons. You have a couple of horses shipping in from out of town, and as is the case at this time of year with a lot of these prep races, you've got to decide what you think of the local prep. The local prep for this race was the Southwest Stakes. It was a good effort from a couple of horses. Petrov most notably, One Liner, the winner that was so impressive that day, he's not here. So you need to decide if you think Petrov's runner-up in that race, even if he moves forward a little bit, is it good enough to handle the new shooters and the new faces in here? One of them is Malegacy for Todd Pletcher. He has done nothing wrong in his 2 lifetime starts. He's been visually fantastic. But the sort of little doubt creeps into the back of your head. Both of them were sprinting. Both of them were against overmatched fields. Both of them were going one turn at Gulfstream Park. And Todd does so well at Gulfstream Park this time of year. You look at the bottom of his pedigree, you wonder how far he's ultimately going to want to go. He's by Shackelford. I also, for some reason, and I'll probably look foolish Saturday afternoon once they run this race, and if he runs off the page. There's just something in me that bothers me that they initially had him entered for a claiming tag of $75,000. They scratched him. He came back a couple weeks later. He broke his maiden impressively by the length of the stretch. Whether that is actually something or not, it's sticking with me, and we'll find out. Again, that could be to my demise, and I won't have anything in the Rebel on him, but I'm a little bit dubious just based on those couple things, and I know he's going to take money. It's Pletcher, it's Castellano, it's Oaklawn. He does very well with these types. I think the most likely winner in the race, in my opinion, by far, is American Anthem. Bob Baffert, all he does is send live runners to Oaklawn Park. He's won this race 6 of the past 7 years, I believe. The other one was Wayne Lucas with Will Take Charge. We know what he turned into, a Travers winner. I think American Anthem is really, really talented. We're going to take a look at his run in the Sham Stakes. This is his 3-year-old debut. He's on the inside. Gormley's on the outside. It's a sloppy track. Look at the fractions. 22-2, 45-2, 10 flat for 3/4. These two have been just throwing it down from the very beginning. American Anthem's down on the inside. That's not the most comfortable spot. He digs in as game as you want, as game as you could possibly be. He gallops out very well. You look at everything, you feel like he has the complete package. He has the connections, he has the pedigree, and he's already shown that he's got the ability. Now, we'll find out if he can ship. I also like the fact that in his career debut, I know it was sprinting, but he won from a little bit off the pace. I don't think he's going to be going out there like that because on paper, this Rebel looks like it's loaded with speed. Everyone should have a fair chance in here. I think American Anthem is a tremendous, tremendous animal. It's still too early to tell what he'll turn into or if he'll turn into anything, but thus far I like what I've seen from him. He, for me, is far and away the most likely winner, and I know I only made him 7-2 because I think this is a pretty contentious race. I think a live long shot and my actual pick in the race is Looking at Lee as we take a look at those. Looking at Lee is a horse that he's not going to blow you away from a brilliant standpoint. He's going to be taken back to last. He's breaking from the far outside. He's going to be coming from the rear. I understand that probably looks fun and looks cool, but not always the safest because we've talked about it ad nauseum. You're always at the mercy of pace and trip. Pace shouldn't be the problem. He should get a very, very good setup on paper anyway. It looks like there's a ton of speed signed on in here. Silver Bullion's going to be close. I don't think he's fast enough to actually get out to the lead. Uncontested, you know he's got one way to go, and they're going to try to clear off with him. Royal Mo is only one outright on the lead. American Anthem's not going to be far out of it, and Malegacy has been very, very forward in 2 of his sprints. Now he's stretching out. There shouldn't be any excuse about the pace. The question becomes quality and trip. Is he going to have to come overland? Probably more likely than not. He'll be coming 5, 6, 7, 8 paths off the rail, off the far turn, but he should get the setup. He's going to be a big number. He's my live long shot in here. Far and away, he's not nearly a likely win candidate, but at the end of the day, I think he's got a shot to at least hit the board, if not spring a mild upset. Live long shot for me, looking at Lee and the Rebel, most likely winner American Anthem. The grade 1 that we're going to go over is out in Southern California. It's the grade 1 Santa Margarita. Let's take a look at that field. A field of 8 signed on, 1 1/8 miles on the main track. This is the entire field. You've only got 8 that are going to go in post position order. The 1 Autumn Flower 19-1, Vale Dory 3-1, Finest City 5-2, Show Stealer 9-2, Lady Tappet 16-1, Perfect Pick 16-1, Wild at Heart 19-1, Estrachada 12-1. I look at this race and say, I don't particularly think the 2 favorites want the distance and are going to want to deal with each other early on, those being Vale Dory and Finest City. Vale Dory has had the easiest of trips in all of her grade 2 victories. She's going to have to work a heck of a lot harder if she's going to get the job done in this spot here. In the Finest City camp, I don't think she wants 1 1/8 miles, frankly. I think she's better going shorter. Talent-wise, I think she's the best horse in the race. I have doubts about her overall ability to see out 9 furlongs, and also with the pace dynamic. She's going to be forwardly placed. Vale Dory is going to be forwardly placed. Perfect Pick is going to be forwardly placed. I would imagine they're going to take Wild at Heart a little bit farther off, but she's not going to be too far out of it. It's going to be a very honest pace in this race, and if they throw it down, I think it can help set the thing up for a horse in Show Stealer, who, for Art Sherman, she has just tried and tried and tried. We're going to take a look at the Santa Maria right now. She finishes every bit as well, in my opinion, as Vale Dory does. She tries. She's been all out for a long time. You see, Vale Dory's basically been out there all on her lonesome. 47-1, 11-3 for 3/4. Show Stealer is trying right now, and she's not slowing down as they continue to get closer to the wire. I love that she doesn't let this horse get away from her. She actually closes the gap marginally. Now she's going to get an extra 1/16 of a mile to work with. She's going to get a fair pace in front of her. I think she should be a good number. I'd imagine she's the 4th choice in the race. I think she has a chance to win this thing. I have her pegged as a live long shot, and she is actually my pick in the grade 1 Santa Margarita at Santa Anita tomorrow afternoon. Those are the 2 races that we will preview for this weekend. We'll go over them for better or for worse next Friday here on this show, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. March Madness, we have to talk about it. Right now, the first game of the day is going on, and it looks like it's off to an incredibly slow start as they're over 4 minutes into the game, and it is 4-3 Michigan over Oklahoma State. This is going to be an interesting game. Michigan, I'm sure everyone has heard about their Big Ten peril where they were taking off, getting ready for their opening round game in the Big Ten tournament. Their plane slid off the runway. They had all sorts of travel issues. They went on a little bit of a run, couldn't get it done. Oklahoma State, on the other hand, they have statistically played in the best conference of the entire year, the Big 12, although I don't know that I believe they're the best conference. They don't play a heck of a lot of defense, but they are all about run and gun, and so far you can kind of see that. They're losing the turnover battle right now, 4-0. I expect them to just finally kind of find their rhythm and start shooting the lights out and try to run this thing up and down. Michigan, I don't know that they want to do that. The reason I'm saying all of this, I initially today was going to come in here and just say, give you my Final 4, give you my Elite 8. Got a couple of long shots in there. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And I'm not going to go full Francesa on you. I don't know if anybody heard that segment the other day, but he didn't know anything. I'm not claiming to be locked in this year. And this has been the least locked into college basketball I've been probably ever. But I've paid enough attention to a little bit and looked at some of the things, particularly the Pomeroy rankings. I think those are very good metrics to sort of look at things. And then I happened to go 16-0 yesterday. We're going to take a look at my bracket right now. For better or for worse, whether you agree or disagree. And again, I've said from the very beginning of this show, when it started over a year ago, I'm going to tell you when I'm right, I'm going to tell you when I'm wrong. I have no problem chirping at 16-0. And I had somebody come back to me last night and go, oh, there's a lot of people that are 16-0. You're right, 151,000 out of 18 million on ESPN.com. Believe that is the top 1.7%, but who am I to toot my own horn? They're 16-0. Hopefully we can have a decent day today, but I'm fully expecting this thing to fall off the tracks. My Final 4, Villanova, West Virginia, Iowa State, North Carolina. A rematch of last year's title game, Villanova and Carolina in Arizona. And I think Carolina gets the job done. They get revenge this year. I think the Tar Heels win the national championship. So there's the bracket. I tweeted it last night. It lives on my Twitter page at Bernier_Matt. We'll see how things shake down as we go forward. 12:29 here on the East, 9:29 on the West Coast. We're going to wrap things up here on DRF Live. Normally at this time, we show you the slate for DRF Live on Saturday. DRF Live on Saturday is no longer happening, with the exception of the big days. We'll be on for the Derby, for the Preakness, I'm sure for the Oaks and all those sorts of races, and Belmont Stakes Day, obviously. But we've changed the format a little bit. We've gone to a half-hour show. It will be on every Friday afternoon. It's called Out of the Gate. It will be up later on this afternoon. I would suggest checking it out, because it's not just myself and Dan Illman and Mike Beer, but we have all sorts of different people coming in. We have Nicole Russo, we have Jonathan Kinchin, we have Michael Hogan, we'll have Craig Milkowski from Timeform US. We have a lot of people, a lot of moving parts. Should be a fun show. We'll iron out the kinks in the time, but the debut, the maiden voyage, is this afternoon. It should be posted on video.drf.com shortly. As far as the rest of the weekend is concerned, you'll be able to follow us on DRF Live. You're going to stay tuned, obviously, below the video player here on live.drf.com. You have the news feed. We'll be updating that with handicapping nuggets and recaps and all sorts of good stuff. Without further ado, best of luck for the rest of the weekend. We'll talk again here next Friday. I hope your brackets aren't busted. Be safe on this St. Patrick's afternoon. Don't do anything stupid. Best of luck. We'll talk again next Friday, The Matt Bernier Show.